Hey guys, thank you so much for joining me on Their Fight Story. My name is Igdalia, and I am here with a great guest that you are going to love and learn so much about. Here with us, we have Ian Cannon.
He goes under the name of Ian Two Guns Cannon. And he hails from Glastonbury, Connecticut. And he started this gym called Roll with the Punches. It's a wheelchair boxing and conditioning program for special needs athletes. He's got a lot of courage coming in here tonight. He works, let's hear it for him. He works with Peter Whelch's F15 gym in Boston.
Hey Ian, how are you?
Doing very well. Thanks for having me today.
It's my pleasure. How did you get into the combat sports and boxing?
Well, wheelchair boxing had never really been done here in the States in an organized way until, I and my team came along. And that all started because of the great movie Cinderella Man. And my little 12-year-old brain, Jim Braddock and I had a lot in common. We were both Irish. We had no left hand, me because of cerebral palsy, him because he kept breaking it. And so I wanted to try boxing, and my mom thankfully agreed, and I went to a local gym here in Connecticut with John Scully and Israel Pito Cardona and that whole crew, and started going. And then when my parents divorced, my dad, because his family was in medicine, recognized the therapeutic benefits of what boxing did for me. And now we said, do you want to box instead of doing PT? And of course I jumped at the chance, and that was my journey into the sport. And all of a sudden my symptoms started to dissipate, and I began to get more motor control. I began to get stronger and not need medication. And then I decided to bring combat sports as a rehabilitation tool to others with mobility challenges.
How quickly did you see the results?
Upper body wise, I saw them within 90 days. Lower body wise and my core, it took longer. It took about 4 to 5 months. But it's one of those things where, as everybody knows who trains, neural pathways, all of a sudden one day they just connect and you're working better.
Mhm.
So that's kind of where we were. And I mean, I got to work with some amazing people.
What struggles were you facing leading up to training boxing?
Finding a gym, finding a team that would believe in me when I first started. And so I just started working the phones, calling around, whether it was to Capiello Brothers or to John Scully or to Peter Whelch, Mickey Ward. The list went on, and I was, found home gyms all over the place and sort of bounced around New England.
What were the feedback that you were receiving when you were making these calls?
They were intrigued because it got them to use their trainer mindset in a different way.
When you were calling, were there any discouragements?
Oh, there were some negative naysayers to be sure, but I mean, it wasn't, they would just say no, and then they would see what I did a few months later, and then they would invite me back down. So, and I don't mean that in a conceited way at all. It just happened that way. And then we decided to start a program and bring others in at the Lions Den in Connecticut. And that's where Roll with the Punches was really born. And we saw, huge improvements, not just in me, but in that whole group through the miracle of combat sports and muscle confusion and skeletal loading and all the things that physical therapists talk about.
It's amazing how you were able to find that passion and incorporate it into lifestyle, your health, your recovery.
Well, I mean, with cerebral palsy and with neuromotor conditions, there's always improved function. There's never going to be a day where I'm normal like everybody else. And that brings us to the psychology of what fighters are. The psychology of being a fighter and being a disabled person. They're essentially the same thing. It's achieving a goal, it's incremental gains, it's all of those things that any fighter deals with. So there you go. But I mean, that's it for us. And I mean, we saw amazing gains with our participants. We had a woman who was a C5 quadriplegic, and she said to us one day doing ab drills and MMA drills on the mat, my abs hurt and I have to go to the bathroom, which is, being someone with paralysis and regaining that sensation is a huge deal. Then we had
Hmm.
someone who was a dual stroke victim as a child. He came to us in a chair, he left walking and driving. So those are the kind of gains that we saw using the drills that every fighter uses.
That's amazing how your vision is able to help so many other people.
I truly appreciate the compliment, but it's just taking the thug mentality that combat sports has in the general media and switching it up to what it really is and
Hmm.
how we as people in the world of this wonderful sport that we love know it to be.
Yeah. And that's a key thing of why I do these podcasts and interview, to take away that stigma that anybody who's in combat sports, it's just an aggressive thing. Whereas this helps our mindset, it helps us stay focused, it helps us regain so many things that we didn't even know we could recover. It's not necessarily releasing our aggression, it's grounding us and it's bringing us back on track where we should be.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look at the work that John Duddy is doing in New York with the Parkinson's program,
Hmm.
or Ryan Roach with Punch for Parkinson's. Look at the gains that these people can see in their daily lives. It's mind blowing.
Yeah, it's great to see. It's so great because so many people, unfortunately, we live in a world where everybody's too judgmental, and they are like, well, he's in a wheelchair, he can't do that. Oh, this person is, in this condition, and they can't do that, but they can. It just needs to be adjusted. It needs to be implemented in a way where you guys can all enjoy it. And
Oh,
with that, you do so much more.
and it's true. And I mean, I've gotten to be in the ring, both training and competing against the best my whole career, and I'm truly blessed.
Hmm.
Working with people like Peter Whelch that we were talking about off camera, and Tommy Connors, I mean, and Mickey Ward, to get trained by all of these guys together, able bodied or disabled, no other fighter gets that opportunity. And the fact that I was able to connect with them and hunt them down and tell them my story, and so many people were able to connect with it, such as Mickey Ward through his nephew Ray,
Hmm.
who has CP, and have him get ready for one of my fights through management of Al Valente was just unbelievable. And probably one of the best, him and Peter and Tommy are the three best disability boxing trainers out there because of their understanding of the neurological world.
That's amazing. Who else have you trained with?
Let's see. Mickey I mentioned, Peter I mentioned, Tommy I mentioned, Justin Fortune with Fortune's Gym and Freddie Roach out in LA. Freddie himself, n- unofficially just an open workout one day. And Ken Shamrock, Mikey Burnett, Kenny Florian, Jason Gruska, Chris Lombardi, Peter Cordona, John Scully. The list goes on, as I say. I'm blessed to have worked with all these guys and incorporated them into my style. And I
Mhm.
mean, you saw, I sent you some fight videos with what I do. What do you think of wheelchair boxing now that you've seen it and gotten to study it a little bit?
It's interesting. I didn't know what to expect when I was watching it because I've never seen it before. But what I realized is that it's kind of it's which is not, but I was thinking of when some people are they're boxing and they're training and they step in a tire
Yeah, it's
and
a lot. It's a lot like that. Yeah.
yeah, so it's like really close and it allows what I was seeing was it allows the person who's doing it to focus on obviously the upper body, ain't, really focusing on where the openings are to hit, the body shots. Um, and you
Yeah.
guys kept your hands up, and people always drop their hands or whatever, they get too comfortable, but you guys keep the technique.
Well, we've got 90-second rounds, and the only style that really works for us is that peekaboo style because you're in tight,
Mhm.
you're moving, you've only got your core as your base of power.
Mhm.
So that's really the only style that's available to you. So we've got to really work and stay busy because 90 seconds will disappear like that.
Mhm.
And the only thing that I can equate it to is a women's bout because they have 2-minute rounds to work. So I worked with a lot of great female fighters over the years to get that tempo up, including Addison Irizarry and a couple others, just to study that style so I could be aggressive and sort of
Mhm.
do the Sugar Ray minute of 30 seconds, win the round, take 30 seconds off, then the last 30 seconds, get aggressive again,
Mhm.
with the 1-2-1 and the 2-3-2, just very simple, basic, easy combinations, but ones that the modern fighter doesn't really throw anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I'm hoping when people start seeing this more, they'll realize, because now they're just focusing on that particular style, that they can incorporate that into their own, because sometimes people get too comfortable in their own style that they miss out on a lot. But with that being focused.
Absolutely. And I mean, I managed to, that's why I traveled to so many different gyms, was to grow this style and
Mhm.
learn different techniques that I can incorporate from the seated position.
Yeah, it was very interesting. Are you or any other of your teammates doing anything like that soon?
We're going to be relaunching the program very shortly. We're working with Champs Boxing in Danbury, Connecticut. We're looking at partnering with several in Mass. The key is finding gyms that are physically accessible and have the space to accommodate chair-bound consumers so that they can learn to train and compete if they want to.
That's awesome. I like that. Definitely let me know when it's up. I would love to be at one of those shows and show some support.
We absolutely will. I mean, I'd love to have you come and observe one of our
Mhm.
rehabilitation classes and film that just so you can sort of see the progression from either rehab to competition or just straight
Mhm.
rehab and the gains that some of these people can make, as I mentioned earlier.
Now, I have a question in regards to that, the technique that you guys are using and stuff. Have any of them suffered PTSD where they use this to bring them back?
Oh, we do a lot of work with disabled veterans who are
Mhm.
transitioning. There was a great piece that HBO Sports did on disabled veterans and MMA, and we looked at that. I myself suffer from PTSD due to medical trauma as a child, which was highly severe. And boxing grounded me. Flashbacks were gone, nightmares were gone, and it allowed me to take that aggression and channel it effectively. You know, um,
Mhm.
and I think that that's needed. Um, Not only for the veteran and first responder population, but
Mhm.
for the medical trauma population like myself. We need that, and it's key for us.
What are the rules when you guys are in the ring?
So I was blessed to work with Steve Smoger, great referee. May he rest in peace. Um, and he, along with my father, developed the rules using the WBC handbook and the
Mhm.
USA Boxing handbook and adapting them to a seated position. So those are the rules that we go by. We have a 64-page rule book. We basically amalgamated those rules and transitioned them. But the basic rules are fighters start out in their own corner in traditional boxing, red and blue, and then each round is 90 seconds. Ordinary bouts are 4 rounds, championship bouts are 6. And at the end of each round, they start from a different corner so that the audience can get a different view and they sort of rotate as they go through, which gives them, because in wheelchair boxing, we don't move the chairs as we're competing because
Mhm.
that's dangerous. You're wheeling the chair and you're leaving yourself open. In
Open.
Britain, they do it that way. I personally don't agree with it because I think that it leaves the other fighter at risk because your hands are down and you're moving, so you can literally walk into a shot that you're not meant to.
Hmm.
And if you're dealing with disability, that's not something that you want to have happen. So,
That we don't safety first.
absolutely.
Where would you like wheelchair boxing to go competitively?
Competitively, I would say I'd love to see it in the Paralympics if we can get it there, but of course, it's got to be in the U.S. first and get approved by USA Boxing, and that is something that we're currently exploring to present to them. And I'd love to see that happen, and then eventually, you know, from the amateurs transition to the pros with headgear, of course, as you
Hmm.
mentioned, safety first, and move from there. I mean, I've gotten to work with some great promoters regionally and East Coast wide. Rich Capiello and
Hmm.
Lou DeBello, who are in great support of what we do. So, we're lucky to have the team that we do.
That's great. And what about with rehabilitation?
I would say roll with the punches chapters in various hospitals because one will feed the other,
Hmm.
right? You'll start off in rehab and you want to compete, and then we grow. Just like they did for wheelchair basketball, just like they did for wheelchair
Hmm.
rugby. Look at those models, improve on them, and run it like a business, so that you can grow the sport, maintain athlete safety, and maintain positive publicity moving forward.
How would you like people to be interacted and find it more interesting, wheelchair boxing?
Well, I think that the interaction part is growing social media. Anyone who wants to
Hmm.
do this, whether they're in the US or Britain, create a social media channel, document your journey, and show how the combat sports community is one of the most accepting that there ever was. And I'm sure that you can agree with that.
Hmm.
I think that once we can do that, and once we can demonstrate what happens both on the rehab side and on the competitive side, the fan base will automatically grow. Because you have to admit, from what you watched, we were a very action packed group.
Hmm. What advice would you give that are suffering one way or another?
Well, I would say three things. One, disability is a choice. And what I mean by that is you can either live your life or let your life live you. And I have a quote that I live by: I don't want to be a product of my environment. I want my environment to be a product of me. So if you're going to go into that, find a gym, commit to the lifestyle 110% because it will do nothing but give you better independence. Whether you fight or not, fighting isn't important, but finding something you're passionate about to motivate you and motivate your body to be better and gain more independence and gain more, as they say in physical therapy, activities for daily living, dressing yourself, transferring yourself, manipulating your body weight, all of those things. As long as you can do that, you're a champion in my book. So
Hmm.
that's what I would say.
Okay. Who was your favorite boxer?
Currently, I would have to say Lomachenko, even though he's getting a little
Hmm.
long in the tooth. And past would either be Barry McGuigan or Jimmy Braddock. McGuigan because he was busy, and Braddock because he inspired me to go on this journey. So,
What was it about him that inspired you?
well, I think that we had a lot of similarities. We were both underdogs. We both
Hmm.
we, even though he was championship quality later in his career, and early on with Tommy Loughran, he wasn't the most skilled. He wasn't the most pretty, but he had grit, and that got him all the way to the biggest title in sports, the heavyweight
Hmm.
championship. So for me, I think that the Cinderella Man adaptation of his story was what lit the spark. And the minute I hit the
Hmm.
bag, I felt like I was home.
Okay, that's key. Finding your home, finding a place, finding it.
We're on autopilot and we don't live our lives without a
Hmm.
why. That's 100% true. Um, and excuse the squinty eyes. I've got sunlight hitting me right in the eyes from my desk. So yes, but Yeah, that's what Braddock did for me, and that's what he did for so many others throughout his story. So,
How do you want your story to influence others?
you know, people say that I'm an inspiration and all these wonderful things, but I'm just a regular guy, and if I can
Hmm.
show you that despite having a disability that I'm just a regular guy who wants to do the normal things, have a career, have a family, live independently, and show you through that journey and through that journey with boxing that I was able to achieve that, whether I win a title or not, I'm already a champ.
Hmm.
So it's done. And the fact that I was able to become a Rocky Marciano champion, which is, being from the New
Hmm.
England area, is one of the most prestigious tournaments you can win.
Hmm.
Um, that's just icing on the cake. So I'm truly, truly lucky.
When people start their journeys, they have a goal, they have a dream, they have a mission. When people are growing up, they say, when I grow up, I want to be a boxer or I want to be a fighter. How would you tell these young individuals that just because they have a disability, it doesn't stop them from achieving the goals that they want?
Well, I would say that those of us with a disability, and even those of us that are able bodied, we go through life differently. We have different
Hmm.
access points, different journeys, right? So there's nothing stopping you. The only thing that's stopping you is you. Get up and do it. Give it a try, and if it doesn't work, go back to the drawing board and figure out a way to make it work if you're passionate about it. I never thought in a million years that I would know the people that I know and
Hmm.
get to do the things that I did, disability or no. It was really cool to fight and train and be on a friendship basis with so many of the wonderful people that I mentioned. And the way that happened was just by determination and just by saying, not I want to be like you, but we're all human. I am one
Hmm.
of you. So how can we interact together? And that's kind of what I did. And that's the advice that I have. Find your passion, and through that you will find a community and build a place for yourself in that community, and you will
Hmm.
be accepted.
Yeah, and if you can't find a community, then make your community. How
Exactly.
many how many no's did you get before you decided and realized, you know what? I have to create my own community. I have to be the one to put the first foundation layer.
It wasn't really no's, it was skepticism. And I think that having a disability, you encounter that on a frequent basis. I don't want to use the word daily, but frequent,
Hmm.
whether it's applying for a job or going to college and just interacting with a friend group or whatever it may be.
Hmm.
You sort of get the how am I going to fit in, or how does he fit in with us? And you find the people that want to stay and that are intrigued by how you live your life. And you have to, when it comes to dating, I say this all the time. If you treat it like it's a big deal, they're going to treat it like it's a big deal. If you treat it like it's just your everyday, they're going to treat it like it's your everyday. And that applies to all social interactions, building a community in or out of combat sports.
Yeah, it's so important. The combat sports community is one of the greatest communities I know of, and it has both sides. It has the good side of it, and it has the bad side of it. But it's, what side are you looking at? Are you going to just judge every single fighter, every single person that's involved in that, and look at the bad stuff that has happened? Or are you going to look at it as, you know what? This helps people. This helps them with their mindset. This helps them with their recovery. This helps them accomplish the dreams that they've had. This is a stepping stone. This is a path people take to reach the next level of their life.
Exactly right. And for me, that community gave me a career. After boxing, after my competitive life, it gave me friends. It gave me people that I could call on if I needed
Mhm.
them, or people just to check in with. I
Mhm.
recently had surgery, and my phone was ringing off the hook from the combat sports community in New England, who found, and across the country, who found out what was going on, even though I kept it private. That community likes to gossip. Of course they do. So it's so my phone still rang, and it was nice to see that bond. And as far as the bad side of the community goes, it's very and this is one of the things that in my organization I hope to dismiss. It can be very feudal and very forgive but not forget, and I think
Mhm.
that's one of the things that impacts our community negatively, is that there's not a lot of cohesion, there's not a lot of working together, there's not a lot of a common goal, and that's
Mhm.
one of the things that I hope to assuage as we move forward.
Awesome. Where did you get your name, Two Guns?
That's a Scully gift. Scully, if anyone who knows Scully knows he loves to give nicknames. So the full name is Rolly Two Guns. Because when I was in the gym rolling around doing road work, he goes, "You got some guns on you now. You're not scrawny no more. So we're gonna call you Two Guns." Thanks, Scully. Love you, buddy. And the name stuck.
Hmm. It goes with you.
Thank you. That means quite a bit.
Yeah. How how young can a person start this journey?
I would say as young as mom and dad will let them start.
Mhm.
Because I started late. I started at 14. I wish I had started earlier for the sake of my disability and my development. But I started and I was in phenomenal shape. I was doing 3 sets of 20 pull ups a day, um, you know, 70 ab slams with a weighted ball, bench pressing my body weight, which for someone with cerebral palsy it's a big deal. And as long as we can manipulate our body weight and move around, we're good. And the more loading you can get those little kids to do with their bones, which is hitting the bag,
Mhm.
putting pressure on their bones, the stronger their bones are going to become. There's going to be less risk of bone density issues and fracture as they move along. And that's important because a lot of
Mhm.
wheelchair bound people don't weight bear. So we develop osteoporosis very, very early.
Well, I'm hearing you and I'm thinking about the ring. Do you guys have a different setup?
So in the old days when we first started, I would transfer onto the apron, roll under the ropes,
Hmm.
and have the chair lifted over the ropes, and then with the help of my corner, pop back in. Now we're looking at a Whelch system that will go behind the turnbuckle, loosen the ropes so that we can pop the chair directly in, and it can fit on any ring, so
Hmm.
that because my main goal is not to have separate but equal, where
Hmm.
there are wheelchair boxing events and that's all you see. I want to have everybody included, where there are disabled bouts on an able-bodied card, just like we did in the old days when I was starting, because that shows how we're all one community.
Hmm. Yeah. How many shows, events would you like to happen in a year?
I would say in the beginning two, and then move to three or four. Nothing crazy. Give the athletes time to train. We all know that
Hmm.
overtraining is a problem, and conditioning is like a saw blade, as Tommy Connors used to say. So we need to give them time to train properly, because the key also is the medical safety protocols that we
Hmm.
put in place, right? It's not, oh, I have a guy in a chair and I have a guy in the chair, they're the same weight, let's just set the match up. No, that's not safe. I think, and this goes for able-bodied boxing as well, There
Hmm.
needs to be a full history review of every
Hmm.
fighter from a medical standpoint. The ringside physicians need to sign off on every match that we make, and then once they sign off and they do a full history review, the match is made and the fight can move forward.
That's
Because
great.
that means that we're matching ability with ability and we're not just
Mhm.
matching on size and skill.
Yeah, that's it's always very important about that.
Matchmaking is key because how many fights
Hmm.
have we seen mismatched over the years that one are not pleasant to watch and two put somebody at risk? Don't even get me started on the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight. Don't even ask.
Let me ask you, how did you feel about that fight?
Of course, I knew we were gonna go there. So I think what Jake is doing for the sport as a promoter, phenomenal. I think what I think the main event could use a little work, but I think what he did for women's boxing and giving them an amazing payday and giving them such a wide scope of an audience despite the buffering issues
Hmm.
was truly impressive. Do I think that Netflix needs to look at their production quality and handling bandwidth of live events? Yes. But do I think that it gives us a framework to build on as streaming is the way of the future and creating a monetizing angle as promoters, whether they be Eddie Hearn or Golden Boy or Top Rank, move forward? Yes.
Hmm.
Do I think that smaller promoters can now purchase dates and broaden the audience and really track the views that their fighters get? Yeah, and I think that's the way we need to go. Sorry for the business school lecture there, but this is
No, I agree. I
I
get it.
studied.
I agree. I agree. Yeah. Ian, thank you so much for the opportunity to interview you and learn so much about this sport. I look forward to interviewing you again. I look forward to going to one of your events as well as one of your. Is there anything that you would like to share before we conclude with this interview?
Just if anyone wants to get in touch with me, Facebook is obviously my Ian Cannon. You can reach me, and Two Guns Boxing on Instagram. And we can help you grow, whether you're a gym who's interested in working with us or a participant who wants to get involved and isn't sure where to start. We can absolutely help you. Don't be afraid to reach out. This is a community that's all love and will help you achieve those dreams and that title shot, whatever that title shot looks like for you.
Awesome. Thank you so very much. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, and God bless you.
You as well.